Um, Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another session of HLF Online, where we bring interesting conversations around interesting books and the people who wrote them. So today I'm very happy to introduce you to Rachel Thomas, the author of Limitless, Autobiography of India's First Female Skydiver, who will be in conversation with Somdatta Karak. So a few words of introduction before we begin the session. Rachel Thomas is the woman who put India on the global map of aerosports. She's one of the very few women in India who have literally dived into this exciting field of skydiving. At a time when becoming even an air hostess was a taboo, she took the plunge, and at the age of 24 was the first civilian Indian woman to participate in this sport, and that was like 43 years ago. And she also has the distinction of having planted the tricolour, Indian tricolour, at the North Pole in 2002. From being India's first woman skydiver to being the first Padma Shree awardee in the aviation category, she has broken glass ceilings all along the way. She has been a competitor at World Championships, an international judge in the sport, as well as a TEDx speaker, and has been a motivating factor for several people. In conversation with Rachel, we have Somdatta Karak, whom many of you already know. She's part of our HLF team since a long time. She is a science communicator and a head of science communication and public outreach at CSIR Center for Cellular and Molecular Biology, Hyderabad. She co-leads Superheroes Against Superbugs, an educational and public engagement initiative on antimicrobial resistance, a global health crisis. She also co-leads Sci City Hyderabad, an initiative to bring science to the cultural conversations of the city. Her primary training is in life sciences. She has a PhD in sensory and motor neuroscience, and she is an ex-Teach for India fellow. So the format of the program is as follows. So Rachel and Somdatta will be in conversation for around 40 to 45 minutes. And after which we will have a Q&A session with questions taken from the audience. So looking forward to an engaging conversation. See you soon.
Thank you so much, Urman. And good morning, everyone. Hi, Rachel. Thanks for joining us today in this conversation. And I must thank you for writing the book Limitless, because it is because of this book someone who was born in 1985, got to know that somebody had already, a woman who belonged to really the generation of my mother had already skydived. And this was very special to me because even now, with all my urban upbringing and now urban life, still most people around me that I know who skydive, which is a still very few, a very, very small number, they go for tandem jumps. They don't jump solo like you did. And that was extremely exciting for me. And thank you that your book got me the chance to know a lot more about you and also get into this conversation with you. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you so much and the Hyderabad Literature Festival for inviting me to share my life and my journey and the book. Thank you very much.
So, also to the audience, I should tell you that Rachel herself says that she is a naughty person who is still a teenager at heart. So, and that is excellent because that makes the conversation very, very easy for me. And I hope that we get that fun out of the conversation today. And talking of fun, I think we should really start with the most exciting thing, which was your North Pole jump. And tell us everything. Tell us everything that was going around that jump. How did it go? Tell everything that has been etched into your memory.
I always thank God because, without His permission or without His planning, nothing happens. So I happened to be doing an inauguration jump at Haryana, at Hisar, for the youth festival, and squadron leader, he was squadron leader, he was there. And he happened to be just telling me, Kamal Singh Oberoi, So he was the other jumper with me, and he happened to tell me, I'm going to jump on the North Pole. So then I said, I wish, Kamal, you had told me. He said, I've been planning for 1 year, but you still have time. You still have time till March, April, and you can come if you can find the funds for it. So me being a very determined person to achieve something if I desire for. So I got around. Of course, there was no time to go to corporates for sponsorship, and it was just God's grace that Railway was celebrating 150 years of their existence in the country. So I just wrote to the Minister of Sports. There also there was a lot of obstructions or problems because it was quite a large amount. It was over nearly $7,000 24 years ago. So it's a lot of money, But Nitish Kumar, who was the railway minister then, he signed off and he said that he gave me the permission to skydive. And I left the country, honestly, without getting the money from the railways. I just took an overdraft from the travel agency because my parents never had it. We never had that kind of money. So anyone in the family couldn't help. So I just took that risk and went. I said, we'll see when I come back. So that's how I went, and everything fell into place. Late George Fernandez, Minister of Defense, gave me all the clothes to use in -55 condition. My daughter Annie, her boss helped us to stay in Leningrad. So one after the other, things like kind of fell in place, and it happened. And what again I would say was God's blessing was, instead of just going and skydiving there just reaching the 89th latitude or the points close to point zero, and getting onto a jumping gear, and then going and skydiving and coming back and getting back into the plane and flying back to Siberia. We had to stay there for 6 days with 1 meal a day. So that itself was a big experience in my life. I learned how to survive in a tough condition, to manage with 1 meal, but then you have to find ways and means about it. And I would go visit the pilot's tent, have a cup of tea and have a few biscuits, or get my sugar intake. See, you've got to remember they had fixed ration there for everyone, fixed food. They had not catered for so much food for so many people who had come for this job. But again, things fell in place.
Lovely. And this happened in 2002, whereas your first jump happened in 1979.
Yeah.
So almost there was a whole career of about 25 years, which kind of culminated into this big jump at North Pole.
Yes.
And tell me this. So you were the first woman skydiver from India to do the North Pole jump, but by then, how many men had done it?
I don't think any men had done it, because even there was an Air Force officer who had done it after me.
I see.
Kamal and I did it together.
So technically, you're the first person then from India.
Yeah.
All right.
So,
And
I think at least I'm a civilian and a woman, so that is technically true.
Yeah.
I didn't think of this to check on the answer. Maybe Thapar's coordinator Thapar had done it before us, so I'm not sure, but I can check up and I can confirm to you later.
Sure.
But
sure.
You should. I believe that those people who needs to be recognized should be recognized.
Right. The reason I ask this is because your book very well brings out how male-dominated the sport is, and not just male-dominated, it's also a very elite sport that's generally supported and open only for those in the military forces. And then, but the sport happened to you by chance. And so could you tell us a little more about how the sport happened to you and what has been your experience of learning being in this?
Again, by chance, I happened to be standing in a group of, it was the para reunion, the day, Para Center was celebrating their raising day. So we were in the paramess, in the parachute. Para is the short form of the parachute, okay? Parachute mess at Agra. And I happened to be in this group of maybe about 5, 8 people. And there is an army officer's wife, Chantal, who stays now in France, married to a Captain Shamsher Singh then. And she just commented that it's so sad that no women have joined the force. It's only men. And she was a skydiver herself, and she was part of running the course. So I just jumped in. I said, "Can I join?" So she said, "Yes, tomorrow morning, be at that training hangar at 5:36 in the morning." So those were not the days of cell phones or normal phones even. And then there was nobody. Of course, two more of army officers' wives, Nishi and Sati, also were standing there, and they also decided to join. So we were 3 of us when we started. Sati completed 4 jumps, and we don't know why she left. Nishi, of course, did 10 jumps but didn't continue. I was the crazy one to continue. And to be honest, women were introduced. Women came into the forces in '92. So there were no women in the forces, and even in for the army, skydiving was not open for all, because you had to go through a very tough medical exam and physical fitness and things like that. And it was basically for the commando troops. It was not for the the parachute regiment has now more, but during my time, there were 10 battalions only. So out of the 10 battalions, the 1st and the 10th battalion were commandos for commando operations. So from them, people were chosen to be skydivers.
So they learned this as a rescue operation drill.
Also for war. Maybe because if you skydive from a high altitude, like say from 15, 20,000 with oxygen, and you can fly your body in a certain position, which we call a delta position, where both your hands are on the side and your legs are out straight, and you're traveling like a fighter jet. So you're losing height, but you're gaining ground. So you can go into the enemy territory without being spotted on the radar. So like Maldives operation happened in that manner. When they had to rescue the Maldives president, it happened in the same manner, that the commandos went in, rescued and then the normal troops landed up there for the country of Maldives. So since your body is not metallic, you will not come in the radar. You can go into enemy territory and do the operation and start the groundwork before the rest of the troops come in.
Right. And given that the army or the military forces were looking at this activity as an operation that they need for war, for emergency times, and then civilians getting into it automatically gives it a tag of sport. How did the military forces react to this?
See those days, to begin with, even the televisions, we never had so much of internet. We never had laptops. I'm talking about the 80s or 79, 80s, early 80s, late 80s. Computers were not available with every person, or everyone. No, very few people knew where the computer world can open up, and very few people travel abroad to know. The sport did exist abroad, but in our country, it was not there. So, since they were called sky gods. The Air Force officers who used to train the army people, they were sky gods because they were instructors. So they were in a very high place. So suddenly when a civilian, and that also with no medical test, with just 21 days of ground training, not such a tough training that they get the boys to do, the army guys to do, they kind of felt, the ground shook, that it's not a difficult thing for normal people to do.
Right. And that also brings me to the point of Chantal. Is that,
Yes,
am I pronouncing her name right?
Yeah.
So tell me if she was a French who was staying in India. Is that correct?
She was
Like,
married to the army officer,
yeah,
and since she was married to Captain Shamsher, and she was an army wife,
yeah.
and the army, that was one of the first time the army adventure cell allowed civilians to take part in it. Usually when the adventure cell has activities, any kind of activities, it is for their military people. It's not for civilians. So
So
even
was it?
even today, I as a civilian, if I want to go and skydive with them, they won't allow. You have to get very high permissions. Like,
Right. So was it then Chantal's initiative to get the civilians, including women, into skydiving as a sport in India?
yes, I would be grateful to her because she just may have said it off random. The brigade commander in Agra would have said, okay, I do not know because I do not know if she got permission. It just happened and then everything took off. Maybe every permission might have got backdated or something like that. I don't know.
Mhm.
The
Yeah,
nitty-gritty is behind the scene, but
yeah.
yes, because it was at the army function, this happened. So I think rest was covered. I didn't think of this. Like, you asked me the question, I never thought of it.
So the reason I'm asking this is also because oftentimes I mean, we identify the lack of people of our own kind in a certain field and we go that extra mile to make it happen for them, right? Like women identify, I
Yeah.
mean, few women who are at, say, leadership position, they see that there are not too many young women working on the initiative that they are so passionate about and they go about making things happen for them. So I
Sure.
was trying to see if Chantal was also doing the same for the Indian
I think I
skydiving
think I
community.
think she was. I think she was kind of because she knew how big skydiving is in France or in the US or UK or anywhere, in the world. So not I wouldn't say much in the Asian countries, but in the world, China is big, Russia
Yeah.
is big. So, but I think she thought of somewhere to kind of give a boost, and that led to today so many girls in India both in the three forces and civilian are skydiving in the country. Mm,
Right.
I would like to say the first skydiving drop zone has opened close to Delhi, 2 hours away. It's called Sky High. And Rudra is doing a good job. Rudra and his partners Digvijay is doing a good job. So they're having regular courses running. So I guess slowly it'll catch up in the country.
Right. And what do you think? I mean, you've seen skydiving in various facets, right? I mean, you were the one who broke many barriers to become the first woman to, I mean, first woman to skydive. I mean, civilian, I don't think matters here. You were really the first woman to skydive in India, and then you went on to represent India on world forums, both as a competitor and then as judge. Went on to bring the world skydivers to India. So you've really seen the sport from many facets. What do you think is the most precious thing skydiving has given you? You have given so much to the sport. So what has it given
Um,
you?
it has taught me to fight, honestly. And also, I went through personal problems. So it's taught me to lift my head high and walk. So I was staying in the same cantonment. I didn't move. I didn't run away. I faced the situation, and it taught me. This sport is everything is in seconds, and since it is in seconds, it's a quick decision. It could be you could take a wrong decision, but then you have got to learn how to get out of it, or accept it. One of the two. So if it's totally wrong, death is the answer. Death is the ultimate. What is going to happen? So you just accept it. Or, okay, I have a reserve parachute. Let me get out of my main parachute and get out to my reserve and manage to save your life. So it teaches you nothing is impossible. That's always been my tagline. And if you have a dream, you can fulfill it, provided you believe in that. So when you believe in your dream, you can fulfill it. So you have to sometimes find alternate ways. You have to find different paths. But sometimes the dream also doesn't come through. Not everything comes on a platter. So sometimes also you have to face problems.
So what would you say as the most challenging thing that came by your way in this in your skydiving life?
Was I couldn't train in my own country. So I could not even do my basic course. So luckily, I don't know, I just sometimes think out of my hat. I wrote a handwritten letter to our late Honorable Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi and went myself and posted it in the RMS, not even in the main post office, thinking, and wrote R Gandhi outside, not even wanting anyone to know this is to the Prime Minister and not getting it to him. So he, of course, gave me the scholarship to go to America to skydive, learn to skydive. So the journey started from there. But then, once I learned, then what's the next step? I wanted to represent India. So I did that. But again, every time my challenge is there, I could not practice. So there were times when through the PMO, I got special permission to skydive with the Air Force. But I got it twice, and then they also threatened, they also warned me, do not ask more. We are not going to give it to you. We won't sanction it to you. So, and then I didn't have that kind of money to go abroad. But then I would find an alternative, like Turkey gave me free training. Russia gave me free training. So I had to find my way about and do it. And I would do it at meetings, world meets, and they would see, they would be shocked. I'm coming for a world competition. There's no manager with me. There's no coach with me. There's no other team. And they would keep saying, there are no other girls, there are no other boys to come. I said, the guys are all from the forces and they don't come. So, and we don't have the training for a competition. So then I moved on to be a judge. It was the same problem. Then I, of course, became a delegate, and that was my journey there.
So in the book also you share your disappointment a bit on how India could not appreciate enough what skydiving, I mean, your representation in the world forums of skydiving was doing for India. Could you elaborate on that a bit? Like, what did it mean in those years for you or any other Indian to be representing India in the world map of skydiving? And what could India probably have done better?
I wouldn't blame anyone, or I wouldn't this thing and thing. So aerosports was not important in the country. Never. Even now, it's kind of growing. Okay. Aerosports is one of the most expensive investment that one can do. Like, I'm sure even mountaineering when it starts, because my daughter does do trekking and mountain. She's done Everest Base Camp. So even she says that, Mom, this boots of mine is $900 or I don't know how many $1,000. So they're expensive, So the jacket, everything. So every sport is expensive. Whether you learn to, play hockey or cricket, you've got to go training, go to camps and things like that. So aerosport now has slowly, in the present government, has lifted wings. It started with the drones. So from the drones, slowly, it is growing slowly. I can see in the next 10 years, it'll grow. It'll grow well. And we might get coaches from abroad to send a team out to learn, get someone here and train them and get our teams going. It'll take a couple of years, but I can see it happening.
Yeah. And you also mentioned how the sport helped you personally when you were going through a lot of personal crisis with your marriage, how the sport gave you probably a focus to keep going, to be determined towards something. So, could you tell us a little more about that? And I also particularly want to know, was there something very special about skydiving that did this for you? Or it could have been probably any other thing that it just happened that skydiving met you at that point.
Of course, skydiving gave me the strength to, to go through this problem. And like I said, I did not leave Agra because my children were in school and things like that. I didn't want to just pull them out and go to another place. I was blessed again. My mother was there, my sister was there, and I would be gone for a month, a couple of weeks, maximum to 3 weeks. 2-3 weeks, I would be gone. Maybe twice a year. That's it. Maximum if I've gone. Because my sister and my mother was there. My children would have missed me. I don't disagree with it, but they would look forward for when I come back with my box full of sweets for them, because they were still young. They were 10, 12 years old. So yeah, I think especially when you go through a problem, you have to have something to distract you, something to move your attention from that problem to another problem. It makes you live. It could be painting, it could be, learning pottery, it could be learning, even go and learn ballet, anything, do the unusual. Or if you had a dream as a child, uh, just go for trekking, like you trek, you told me, and that also you trek all by yourself. That itself is a big adventure, that going by yourself, which for 2 minutes, my heart kind of did that. And I wanted to tell you, no, you should take somebody, because you can twist a leg. It's not that it'll happen. Or you could come across a snake bite or something, and there's no one to rescue you. So yeah, so that is also adventure. I'm not saying everyone should do skydiving. I remember my brother-in-law once saying that from Dehradun they would cycle to Delhi or to Chandigarh. Couple of boys, cycle those days in the 80s, and that was adventure for them. On the highway to cycle and come to see a new city. So I think it makes you a different person. The moment you do adventure sports, it changes. My daughter, again, she also does scuba diving. So when the moment you do any kind of adventure sport, it changes your whole thinking process, because everything happens in seconds. You have to take a quick decision what you want to do. So that helps you also to live a challenged life, to face situations. It changes your personality. So earlier, when I was skydiving in the 90s, I was at the BPO industry had started up. The call centers had started up. And I remember my son telling me that, when he started his job, even my salary was not that high. He should get 10,000, because I was in the railways, or mine might have been higher, I'm not sure. But for a boy who just passed out from college without any kind of qualification, get straight 10,000. So, okay, some boys are intelligent or some girls are intelligent, they will invest, they will save. But some aren't, they'll go pubbing or drinking or whatever, getting into anything. But when they're looking for a thrill, so when they're looking for a thrill, you give them an adventure activity to do. So then they get addicted to that adventure activity instead of going and drinking or going to a pub, So the whole life changes. So your outlook changes. And I think it's very good for people to do any kind of adventure activity.
Right. And I also feel, I mean, because you brought out my trekking too, I think I also relate with what you say quite a bit. And I would also want to share that I think, especially when we are going through a low phase in life, and if we do something difficult, something that falls into the category of adventure, and it gives a huge sense of confidence that, okay, this is difficult, but I know how to do this. And if I know how to do such a difficult thing, I know how to tackle other things as well.
Yeah.
Talking of adventure sports, I see how it is growing exponentially in India. I mean, how do you see the scenario in India? Do you think it's growing well, or do you think it's growing way too fast without taking into consideration the safety measures that we probably need to have in place? Especially skydiving is an extremely not only expensive but also very dangerous. I mean, you have had very close shaves yourself. So tell us more.
Again, I have certain beliefs. God created you in a certain time, and God takes you in a certain time. Your plan, your journey on this life is already decided, when you're going to be born and when you're going to be called home. So because you feel, just because it is dangerous, you cannot stop breathing. Living in Delhi is horrible, because the pollution level is so high in December, January, that even children are being nebulized now. It's very sad. So Is my skydiving more dangerous than that? No. Is crossing a road in Delhi more dangerous than that? No. I stay in a place at Fortis. My block is opposite Fortis, and there are four lights, four lights, and there's just not a half a second or half a minute for people to cross from this side to that side or anywhere. You have to juggle and manage. So, and there could be a rogue driver who jumped the light, and suddenly you get hit. If you get paralyzed, you can get paralyzed then, and also you can get paralyzed in skydiving. So I will not say that, you should stop, living your life. You live once, live it fully, but live it wisely, take the right decisions. Of course, I've enjoyed myself a lot, and I had to take the decision to stop jumping. So I stopped. Otherwise, there are people older to me who are still skydiving. A very good friend of mine, Cheryl from US, still is taking part in competitions. So I guess we all take our call at the given time, when to do, when to stop.
But at the same time, I felt this also closely when I was reading your book, that maybe, especially your accident with the back, could it not be? I understand if you think it's only destiny, but could it not be avoided had there been better gear, better training?
No, that was not that first accident that happened in Turkey. I had seen a dream.
Right.
In my book, I have. This is the book, by the way, which is available on Amazon, and you can buy it. Anyone watching me, in that book, I have clearly said that I saw this in a dream, and I had. What happened is I got up and I was all sweaty, and I kind of went to the washed up, drank water, and went back to sleep. It had been at 1 o'clock at night. I don't remember the time. But when I got up in the morning and I went to the drop zone, I forgot about everything. I just forgot about it. And I just went to jump. And I had hurt my shin few days back. So I was just supposed to do a pop jump. A pop jump means jump and pull. I was not supposed to go higher because I was training for accuracy. I was training for a competition. For that, you don't have to go higher and jump. So a fighter jet came in. And when that fighter jet came in, we had to go higher. And we were on the path, so we had to fly higher. And when I was the second on the stick, we call when 1, 2, 3, who was to go out. So I was second to jump out. And I had to go further down to open my parachute. So I opened, we went to 8,000, and I had to open my parachute at about 3,000 or 3,500. So it was a long, about 20 minutes free fall, 20 seconds of free fall or more. So I knew I had not packed my parachute accordingly. That will not give me an opening shot. So when I'm a small built person, my frame is small. So when my parachute was coming, I just clutched like this to hold on to my risers coming. So I could break the jerk I would get when the parachute is fully open. So that doing this action popped out my reserve handle, and that opened my reserve. And then I kept it between my legs. But again, I thought maybe if I keep it there and my legs are not in a good condition, I won't be able to keep it tight. That's what you're taught. The drills that were taught to us were perfect. I would say Chantal gave me the best training. She would say, if someone said go in my sleep, I'd do all my drills. Even today, I think. So I did everything right. But the decisions I took during that jump were wrong. So, and due to which, of course, God spared me. I landed in a field that had beetroot, and it hurt my spine. But again, I'm walking. I'm still walking, running, doing everything. I've driven my kinetic. After that, I've gone on a rally.
I'm just glad that you were fortunate to.
Yeah, it was just.
You're fortunate to tell us all this.
Yeah, I had another accident which now hurts me very badly in New Zealand, which is not in the book. I did snowboarding and I hurt myself. Sandboarding, and I hurt myself. It's not in the book. So anything can happen to you anyway. But life is so short, just enjoy it. But enjoy it, I think, correct. I mean, enjoy it, but you should take warnings when it comes to you. When your conscience is telling you you've done too, don't do anymore, but you still want to push it. And that's where I got hurt.
Possibly. And now I want to ask you this question, like as a woman to a woman. What were your experiences like as a woman to break these barriers? Yeah, I mean, this could be reactions from men around you, women around you, support that you got, challenges that you had to face, everything that you can tell us.
I've shared some in my book, but I've not shared all because I don't want to hurt anyone. I went through a lot of problems. Okay. So, if people could just think it as a sport and help everyone else, share with their experience, and teach others, or not keep things to themselves, it would be a bit, I mean, it's not only in the sport, it's everywhere in life, If today I'm an older skydiver and I met a young skydiver at the drop zone the day it was opening. So she was a very thin girl and I knew it was that one, that's her. And I saw a small landing thing that she did. So I explained to her later slowly on my own one-to-one. I said, you should have let it fly a little more. You could have literally walked on the drop zone instead of breaking it. So see, sometimes if you have a regular coach and someone's watching you for each jump and then debriefing you, you learn faster. So these are things that I think senior skydivers should help the little ones who are budding, to help them, not keep things they know to themselves. Or even like, I know another girl called Anamika, who's an engineer, passed out, and she was one of the first youngest skydivers. Now there's younger to her. I used to always say, Anamika, please make sure that you publish articles, get things written about you, because I never knew the importance of media when I was doing this thing. I never knew these things. So I try and motivate others that they can grow to get their sponsorship or to get anything, any help they need. The ministers should get to know, or people should get to know about their achievements. So I said, always I try and motivate others to grow, that's what I feel. Right. We should not be selfish in anything, I think we do.
Yeah. And despite that, I mean, when I was reading the challenges that you bring out in your book, I mean, it felt like it's the same problem that we see even today. That and again, I don't know how much I can blame the men in this, but it is probably just natural that men become friends with men, women become friends with women, and if a certain thing has become male dominated, then it just promotes and propagates itself. And I do feel that we are in that phase in human civilization where that shift is happening, and people like you have spearheaded that. And despite that, even in our generation, it feels like, okay, we have still so much to do, and how do we go ahead from here? So would you want to share a little bit on that front, on how
I think
men help women better?
I think it starts at home. Don't differentiate between your children. There were times when my daughter would lay the table. There were times when my son would wash the dishes. So, I would there was no such thing that this is a girl's work, or the kitchen is only a girl's domain. Today, my son is a good cook, by God's blessing. So, so Annie also, my daughter, cooks, but in the sense, he's fond of it passionately. She does it for the sake of doing it. But at home, I think everything, after especially what happened in Calcutta, that is the cry. Let's teach our boys. Let's teach our boys to be different. Let's teach our children at home to learn to respect girls and to learn to respect, if especially, in Haryana and certain states we have in South, it's, girls and boys have the same place, especially in Kerala. There's no difference between men and girls. They have the same place at home. But when you go up, you can see the difference. Even today also the gungat will come down there, that they literally have to look at their feet to make sure that they're going in the right place, and look through the thin sari or the chunni to see who all is there. And if it is the grandfather-in-law, it'll get even worse. Go down, or she'll pass it to her mother-in-law to give it. She won't even go in front of them. So that still exists. So slowly, I hope that things change, and that only education can change. When girls get more and more educated, and more things happen in their village itself. We have to go to the grassroots and start at the grassroots. Like in the village itself, there should be a change. So when that happens, like nowadays there are girls who are driving the tractor and doing that kind of work. So there is change. I won't say there is, but I read a story of once there was a young girl who's hardly 15, 16 in Banaras, somewhere in Banaras or UP, that side. She was the eldest, and her father used to burn, the dead bodies, the wood, and they had to break everything and things like that. And all her other siblings, her brother and all, were very small. So she shaved her head off, dressed as a guy and as a boy, and worked at the where the burning heart is. So nobody knew. And there was another girl who was exactly like her in Haryana, who again shaved her head, and became a barber. She became very difficult for her to hide herself later. Then she would wear baggy clothes or something. But finally it came out. But so many men cut their hair through her, never knew that she was a girl. So there are people who break the trend slowly with a lot of courage. So I won't say that what I've done is out of the world. And for them, I salute them. Like now there are 2 army jawans, girls, who skydived. So that's a great thing in the army recently. So I salute them that, they're changing. Life is changing in our country slowly.
No, and it's also very heartening that, I mean, once a sport that was so elite, it is still very elite. It is still very expensive for civilians. But let's talk of the military forces where that in the hierarchy of things there, that Jawan's wives are also considering it. I think that really made me very happy when I read that. And I think that really
And
sets
those
the
2
tone.
Jawans' wives did it in my time in the 80s.
Correct.
That was such a big thing for us, that 2 Jawans' wife in the 80s, 84 came forward to wanting to skydive. Of course, they couldn't they couldn't go ahead with their free fall body position. So it is, but the interest of wanting to do was so much that I really felt so good.
So how is it, how is skydiving training in India like today?
I haven't gone to a drop zone to say about it now. So among the civilians, because most of the civilians are doing it abroad. So now once Rudra's and Digvijay's drop zone sky high, takes off, maybe I'll go and see what they do, how they spend the day, how they train. So I'll get an experience of it. So I just went for the opening function, and that was it. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you so much. And I see Uma has come online. So that's a sign for us to, I mean, for me to stop my questions, because I'm sure Uma has a list of hers to ask. Thank you, Rachel, for
Thank
the
you.
wonderful
It was such
discussion.
a wonderful time with you. And thank you for, speaking, bringing out so many aspects about me. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
But it's not over yet, Rachel. Yeah, so thank you for a very exciting conversation. It was so interesting to learn about this sport, this extreme sport. I mean, we don't know what is the nitty-gritty behind it, the involvement of the army and the civilians, and also the breaking of so many stereotypes, which you personally have, you have done. So we have so many comments, very interesting. Many people have sent their comments. Dipankar Mukherjee says, Rachel Thomas is an inspiration to many. Usha Raman says the same, what an inspiration. Annie Thomas says, so proud of you, Ma. And we have a few questions also, and let's take them one by one. So Usha Raman says, do you think the sporting culture has changed significantly in the years since you started skydiving? Is it different for adventure sports and conventional sports?
It is changing. Aerosports will change. Of course, microlights in the forces is more like whether it's microlight or ballooning or everything. Among civilians, aero modeling is growing. Skydiving is growing. Both male and female. Among civilians, skydiving is growing a lot. Scuba diving is growing a bit. Of course, mountaineering has always been the thing. So mountaineering is always big in India. But in the same way, I think like even cricket, everyone wants to become a Sachin Tendulkar. Okay, so there's a lot of money involved. Sending a kid to the camps, sending them regularly for practice, and they have to juggle school, homework, and going for training. So there's a lot of, and you have to train them when they're young. So at least in our country, we start sport at a later age. It's in China and Russia, they start when they're 4 or 5 years old. They start off, in whatever sport they want to go into, whether it's gymnastics or whether it is equestrian or on the field. So they start training the kids. The teachers can see the people can see what strengths that child has. So they slowly groom the child in that field. That kind of a thing I wish would grow in our country. We have talent. It's not that we don't have. We can bring back a lot of gold medals to our country. Like you look at the boxers, you look at some of the girls who won medals this year in France are from villages, are from the back and beyond. So when we have talent there, why can't, we start looking for them and growing, helping them to grow?
It's the culture, it's the sporting culture which is missing.
Yeah, and also one of the girls said it was her father who helped her mother supported her. So that whole thing was from home, So now maybe since they brought back gold medals and maybe more and more Hindi newspaper, all languages, all vernacular languages, publish that girl's achievement, who's from a small village. Then there will be a lot of change. Like Abdul Kalam once said, why does a newspaper have to start with a murder or a horrible thing on the first page? Why can't it start with something good the country has achieved that day, or something nice that the country has achieved that day, or something good, or even about a kid who's done something? So I think that, if our thinking process changes, the whole country changes also.
We have another question from Amita Desai. Is there anything in your field that you think you may have missed out on for whatever reason that you regret?
In my field, with all my struggles, I have not missed out anything. In skydiving, you desire to be a competitor, you desire to be a judge, you desire to be a delegate. And as a delegate, I brought International Parachuting Commission to India, and which is a 4-day event, 3 days, a 4-day event, which I hosted. Managed to squeeze in a jump on the bank of the Taj Mahal. And in my book, when Dipankar, my publisher, he liked my conversation, he had asked me, Rachel, I can put 8 colored pictures, or what do you want? I said, I want more black and white pictures that when someone reads my book, they relate. It's not a fiction, it's not a story, it's something. There are this a kind of a wave. Like, sometimes there are dull parts, there are good parts, interesting parts, technical parts. So when you throw in pictures in between and you get distracted, she dressed in a sari in Sweden for the opening of that Swedish competition, or she is very Indian in her nature, or in China, or to see I smuggled a dog back from Russia. So I'm sharing a lot about my book also. So what I meant to say is it changes your whole life, So I didn't miss out anything. Whenever I went for a competition, I would try and learn the culture of that country, and I still have very good friends abroad all over the world. who I can turn up and say, knock, knock, I'm here.
Lasya has one question. How has skydiving changed the way you think about trust, both in yourself and the people around you?
Oh, that's a nice question. Okay, when I did my basic training, which was 21 days, it was really tough. It was really, really tough. There was no shortcut. And there was no laxity that you're a woman or you're a girl, so you have to do less of running or less of push-ups or less of exercise as the guys do. You know, it was for everyone, it's the same. But later, in the same institute where I had skydived, I had learned earlier, I had seen it. You know, there was, it was not so strict. Skydiving, when you know the skydiving is a sport where it's between life and death, you know, you have to be very careful. You have to train the people. Absolutely. There can be no shortcuts. So I feel that, yes, I've seen that we have to be regimental and there is no this thing in it because you've taken the guarantee of that person's life who's going to skydive. So, and you're teaching that person. So like I quoted before that my daughter did scuba diving and did mountaineering. I'm sure she did training and there was no shortcuts in it. So it's basically that she went up to the level of a rescue diver. So she did her training properly to go to that level. So I think it is very important to be trained by good people and who you trust, and there's no bhai-bandi in it. Like, you know what I would say. No kind of being kind that, oh, she's a girl, she can do less. No.
Amita has a follow-up question. She says, indeed, it is our village girls doing us proud. What do you think needs to be done to inculcate the spirit of sports, performance, and discipline at schools, families? I think you have a little bit answered that question, but maybe you would like to add something else.
Amita, I would say we should try and all the big newspapers in Delhi and other places who had published this article, you know, about their medal should try and translate it into vernacular, and also in channels that are in their towns, that are played in their towns, you know, or whatever. It's instead of showing that there is problem everywhere, you know, everything is sad news. Try and give cheerful news like this in between. Interview that girl, interview her parent, go find them. You know, it's not one. Mary Kom was one of the first, I would say, you know, breaking barriers from her. She was a married girl. Her husband supported her from a small Naga girl from a small village who sacrificed everything and made India proud.
Yeah, so I also have a couple of questions.
Sure.
I mean, we have covered everything, I think, from the technicalities and the experiences you went through as a jumper. I was just wondering, how do you take each jump and what goes through your mind? So is each jump a challenge, or I mean, what are your thoughts when you just jump off that plane? And and during the jump, are you totally focused on, you know, the operational part of it, like what exactly you have to do? Or, you know, sometimes when we are driving a car, we go into autopilot mode and,
Yes.
you know, we start thinking of other things. I mean, do you admire the scenery around you? Do you say, oh, wow? Or, I mean, how does it go? How does each jump go for you?
To begin with, I'll give you an example. When you free fall from skydive, the other word for skydive is free fall. When you're flying like a bird from 10,000 feet to say 3,500, okay, you basically cross 7,000, distance of 7,000 feet in 45 seconds. Let me make it clear, it's in 45 seconds. It's not even a minute, okay, unless you go higher, okay? So when you're in that, and then when we walk on this earth as human beings, we do not realize how sensitive is the air is. So it's, when you're next time you sit on a plane and you see the wing dipping, you see the whole plane gone on an angle. But in the plane, you're not feeling that unless you look out. You know, the same thing is with our body. So when I want to turn, I just need to press one hand down and my body will turn. So when you skydive, initially we start with something called a spread eagle. So your hands are out straight and your legs are like this. And your body is in an arch. So then once we mastered that, then we make our body smaller. So when we're falling, we take that much air, we're compressing that much air and bringing, and we're playing with that air. So next time, look at a vulture, look at an eagle, they keep soaring. And then when they want to turn, you'll see one wing going down. Not a crow or not a dove, not those birds. You have to look at the big birds. So because God has given them the ability to soar and stay high up for long. But the smaller birds do not have that ability. So once we have mastered the spread eagle position, then we go to what is called a frog. Our hands are smaller, our legs are smaller. So it's less air that you're pressing and bringing down. So your body has to be in a good arch. So sometimes what happens is, while you're making your frog position, your body can be a little tight. One hand can be a little down or up, or the leg. One leg can be a little, tighter than the other. So there's a very little gap, a very tiny, not even a pencil, less than a pencil gap. But from that gap, the air goes through. And when the air goes through, your body starts turning slowly. And then it goes into a faster turn, which becomes like a corkscrew kind of a thing. It's like a corkscrew kind of a thing. So the only way to get out is break your position and come back to a new position. Then you get out of it. Because you cannot open your parachute in that kind of a corkscrew position, because the whole parachute will be twisted when it comes out. So there are a lot of things you have to be careful. The most difficult position for us to master is to standing straight in the air. To stand straight with your hands straight out, with your legs together, and put your hands out and stand straight. That's the most difficult, because from being flat to come to learn to this, and to learn how to play with the air and stand straight. Yes, nowadays children, youngsters, and every jump is a learning experience. Every jump we go up, okay, I want to do that, I want to do this. And then sometimes I have done what is called formation jumps, when 4 or 5 people make a star. So I've gotten to that, I've learned to do that. So there is different things that you keep learning. Every jump, we have a logbook. So in our logbook, we write, even my bad jumps I'll write, did a mistake. So if you want to learn, you have to be honest with yourself and write that I made a mistake. I need to go and correct this. So then go to a coach and then ask, what should I do? So then he might take me onto the ground and he'll check my position out. So that is the only way to learn. Every jump is a learning experience.
That's really amazing. So it's a combination of total focus, fitness, coordination, so many things.
And also a combination of learning to fly the chute, because again, that is also another technique we have to learn. There's a lot of science involved. So the plane lands against the wind. The plane never lands with the wind. So if the wind is coming in this direction, the plane will land in this direction. Okay, because with that wind coming on the plane, it helps to break the plane speed a bit. So same is for us. We also land against the wind. So the parachute speed goes less. The parachute flies fastest when there's zero wind, because there's nothing to break the speed of the parachute. So there's a lot, and then we have to learn at 1,500, we come over the drop zone, check how far we are going, then we come back, and then we have to bring our approach and do approach. So it's very scientific also, and it's all the time you're using your brain of doing it. It's not, not saying, oh, mere ko biryani banana, I have to make this, or I have to go to a party tomorrow, what clothes I'm going to wear. No, those thoughts you cannot have, because everything is happening in seconds.
Lovely, lovely. Yeah, so we also have Daphne Fonseca saying an amazing and inspiring journey. And Kinara and Amita also join in saying what a lovely conversation. So thank you so much, Rachel, for sharing your thoughts. It was really a very exciting journey. You took us all on a flight with you, I think. And thank you so much, Somdatta, for your wonderful and thought-provoking questions. And
thank you both of you for having me. And I would want to thank the complete team. We never thank the people behind. So, like, we only think we thank the pilot or the aerosters, but we never think of the people who stand at the gate, the security guard, the people who fill the fuel, cannot have a bubble in that fuel. The technicians who check all the ACs in the plane. All those little things. We never think of people behind the scene. So we should learn to thank everyone daily for everything that happens in our life. So.
Yeah.
Life will become different. Life will become different.
Thank you. It was a real pleasure. And I must thank the audience also who have participated
That
and
is
their
true.
comments and questions. So we come to the end of this session, and I hope to see you all very soon at the next edition of the HLF online talks. Have a good Sunday. Goodbye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Uma. Thank you, Rachel.
Bye.
Thank you, Lasser.
Yeah.
Hi, the stream has ended. So you're free to chat here if you want.
Yeah.